All right, welcome back to the Bourbon On, everybody. We are live. Let's get into it. All right, folks, welcome back. It's been a couple weeks since I had a live stream here. So it's nice to be back. My schedule is settled down a little bit. So, yeah, let's... got some people in the chat. OG Brick, what's happening? So I don't have a huge plan for tonight. I just figured I was going to do a warm-up pour of this Elijah Craig Ryder Cup edition. I just did a review of this, a rather glowing review, because I really liked this when I had it. I did have another pour after doing the review. I've had a couple of small pours here and there just to see if it keeps holding up. So I'm going to get into that, and then I have got samples on the bar that I need to thin out. It's a good problem to have. But so I figured I'd get into some of those. I've got, I believe this one is from Dr. Robert, Proof and Wood, the Representative. And I think these are the ones, they have like the Representative and the Senator. And I have seen these on the shelves and always been a little curious about them. And then I believe this one is this also from Dr. Robert? Dr. Robert, if you're watching this, let me know. The Barrel Batch 35. Yes, I believe this one was. That's the problem. Sometimes I try to keep track of who sends me what, and then my samples get all mixed up. Anyway, Barrel Batch 35, 6-year, 117.5. And then from non-bike riding Dave Vogelsang, I've got the Barrel Bourbon Full Proof 11-year blend of bourbons ranging in age from 11 to 20 years, 123 proof. And it says a limited release of 300 bottles, so that should be interesting. So getting a little water here in the Glen to start things out. Please hold. And I'm going to do a quick audio check because I didn't do one directly before I started this, so let me know if you guys can hear the sound effects, just in case I need them.
That's what she said.
There's one. Canadian Chris, what's happening? Good to see you in the chat. All right. So anyway, yeah, it's been interesting because I released this video, and I think this is the first time I finally got okay, sounds great. Thank you, Chris. I finally got to be first out the gates on a review of bourbon. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but it was weird because, like I said in the video, I just went in and I saw this on the shelf, and I was like, all right, well, it sounds interesting. I don't like the price on it, but, you know, hold on a second. But I was curious enough to want to try it. Dave Renstrom, cheers and hear you loud and clear, including sound effects. All right, thank you. And so anyway, I pulled the trigger on it, and what's funny about this is whenever I have one of these bourbons that I end up really liking, but I know that there's going to be some people that probably... you know, I mean, with bourbon, it's always the same thing. You know, some people like stuff, some people don't. Everybody's got a different palate. But my thing that I always get a little bit worried about when I do reviews, especially when I really like something, is that I oversell it, you know, to somebody that, you know, is not going to end up liking it as much as me, which, you know, that's just the name of the game. I think anybody who watches bourbon reviews probably knows that. But, yeah, so this one, if you guys didn't catch the review of it, I still haven't seen anything else. Like I said, there were some pages on the World Wide Web there that had some information, but it's just the regular small batch. It actually has the regular small batch on there. Ryder Cup edition, 94 proof. Bourbon finished with toasted sugar maple and applewood staves. And so in the review, I was getting some nice kind of fall notes from it. A little bit of like a cider, but the fall notes were kind of faint. They were there, I shouldn't say faint, but they were nicely balanced in the sense that I said in the review that they come together to kind of make one flavor. There's like layers to it, but they're subtle layers, if that makes any sense. Elijah Craig is my first bourbon until Whiskey Tube taught me that Old Number 7 is actually a bourbon. Does the sugar maple give it a Jack Daniels vibe? No, not that I'm getting from it. It just seems like it gives it a little extra. There's like a little spice to it that I can't always put my finger on. So, what interestingly enough, like I I should probably do a side-by-side with this and the regular Elijah Craig. Because, who knows? Maybe I'm overselling this to myself. But, so far, I really like it. And so let's get into it a little bit more tonight. Cheers, everybody. Let me know in the chat what you're sipping on. Yeah, I feel like this one just has and power of suggestion with the toasted sugar maple. I'm not getting any maple, but I'm getting much more sugary sort of vibes. Like it's got that I said in the review, a rich brown sugar to it. But it just has like a kick to it. It's kind of like I don't know, if you put a little extra sugar in your Kool-Aid, you get that little boost out of it. I killed a bottle of Maker's Mark Lost Recipe earlier. Nice. That Lost Recipe was a good one. The $1 million question, OG, is have you cracked open the 10 Mocha Stave one yet? I actually went back to that store because I went there like, how long ago was it that we sent you that? It was like 2 years ago. And then I went to, that's like a local chain store. And I went to another one of their locations within the last year here. And they had it again because once you order that, you can, or once you pick a stave profile, I think you have access to it for good. And so they can keep doing that. And I still didn't buy one because I was buying some other stuff, and at some point you got to mind the budget a little bit. And then I went back in there, it's gone now. I was going to buy a couple of them. Unfortunately, no, it's probably my favorite in my set of Maker's Mark. Well, how do you know it's your favorite if you haven't opened it? Or the Lost Recipe was your favorite? Let's get into another sip of this. I have 24 unopened picks and LEs. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so you've got a full-on Maker's Mark like collection. Okay, I see where you're going with that. So you want to collect up as many different recipes as possible? Is that the goal there? Which I get, Those are kind of unique. There's actually been a lot of talk, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, about, the Maker's Mark store picks. Like, are they really that much different? Like, do you need to keep buying them? And I think with those, at least, as opposed to just like a random pick of, Sugar Kitty is in the house. I haven't done your sound effect. Damn it, I totally forgot to do that this week, but we'll just do the cat, the regular cat. But anyway, so a lot of people are saying, I think that people are kind of divided on this because on one hand, I've always thought when people get like a Maker's Mark, one of their limited releases or a pick, and they're like, well, I love this one and I can't stand this one. I've never noticed a big enough difference. I've always kind of considered the Maker's Mark stave profile series, whether it's the limited edition series or the picks. I've always considered that to be like, if you like one of them in general, you're probably going to generally like the other ones. But they do have a lot of nuance to them. They do have definitely different flavor profiles, but they play in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? So like for me, it's hard to picture like loving one and hating another one, just because they are all fairly standard. Not standard, I should say, but they're all, again, they kind of all hang out in that same lane. I really need to compare this to the regular Elijah Craig. Yeah, there's a little something extra on this one. It's really interesting. Oh, you shot a video of your collection. I don't know if I can copy that. Can I do anything with that from here? I don't think I can, but I will definitely check it out. Hey, OG, can you email that to thebourbonnote@gmail.com? So far, just water. Might pour a new Glarus later. Getting into the beers tonight. Rare Barrel, what's happening? Steve and Denise, I don't know which or both. I'm assuming Steve. It's usually Steve behind the keyboard. What's going on, man? Oh, hold on. You know what I forgot to do is add my background music. There we go. I thought it seemed a little empty and awkward, as per the usual on my live streams. There's a spotted cow in the future. All right. I like it. Steve, where have the live streams been? I haven't seen you guys popping up. I know you were building a new studio, or have I just been missing your live streams? Because I feel like I get, notice when you guys post something. I'm looking forward to seeing the tour of that new whiskey room that you guys are building. So yeah, let me know what's going on with that. Just finished the new studio, so we should be doing one very soon. Nice. Oh, by the way, I saw your post the other day, Steve. It was I commented on it. I think it was on Instagram about the it's the sugar in this that's getting me. It's the sugar in this that I really like. They're a little fall vibes. They're a little more faint tonight than they were when I first had it the first couple of times. But yeah, it's like a sugary, sweet with a little spice. Anyway, Steve, I commented on your post. You said you saw the E.H. Taylor in the wild, but it was like $130. I was like, oh, that's probably the MGM down by his house. Because didn't you say that MGM in Plymouth is not far from where you live? Yes, same email. So now that we've gotten to talk about Maker's Mark, I'm thinking instead of doing samples, maybe I should do a Maker's Flight. Yep, it's the okay. I figured as much because I went in there maybe a month and a half ago, and they had a Weller Antique 107, but it was like $170. That store's got a good selection, but they tend to get a little rowdy with their prices. I've noticed that with MGMs in general. For those of you that don't know, MGM is kind of like I don't know if it's a chain anywhere else besides Minnesota, but there's a lot of locations around Minnesota. But there's absolutely, I think they're all like independently owned, so there's absolutely no consistency from one store to the other, like as to how they handle allocations or how their prices are or whatever. So I tend to like going into MGMs, but some of them are just freaking wild. The one in Waconia is my favorite one. They've got a really good selection, and I've never really found anything allocated there, but yeah, they tend to get a little nuts. All right, let's get into some of this whiskey that I've never had before. I'm not going to do the Maker's Flight. I've done that enough on the channel. So, all right, I'm going to get out. Well, here, let's do this. So, speaking of flights, for the Patreon subscribers, it's already up, but tomorrow's flight, I did Old Fitzgerald, the new 7-year bottled in bond versus budget bourbons. I think there's going to be a medium response to that video as far as whether people get pissed or thumbs up. So, anyway, that was a good one. But coming up here also, folks, on the Patreon, I did make an announcement to the Patreon subscribers that here at the end of August, the content was going to start getting boosted up. And so with my schedule freeing up more, so there's going to be a lot more bonus content on the Patreon. If there are any Patreon subscribers watching right now, I'm actually going to film some stuff as soon as this live stream is over. So we'll get into that. All right, so here's Proof and Wood, the Representative. I've always been curious about these because I see them sitting on shelves, the Representative and the Senator. It says it's 4-year straight. It doesn't say if it's bourbon or... Oh, here's the mash bill. 75 corn. Okay, so bourbon. 75 corn, 21 rye, 4 barley, MGP. Jim Domeyer. What's happening? Good evening, all. Enjoying some New Riff 8-year. Jim, I am so curious about the New Riff 8-year. That's definitely on my list because there's a lot of places around me that sell that. And the Balboa rye. I think they sell the 8-year. The bourbon and the rye, I think I've seen. So yeah, New Riff is one of those brands that after even just having their base model products, I'm super excited to get into. Problem is there's so many freaking bottles out there that I want to get, and then, yeah, something else always comes up. I run into some bottle like that freaking Elijah Craig. All right, I won a bottle of the Senator a while back. It was good. Even very good, but at regular price, it was kind of hard to buy one. Just depends on pricing. Yeah, I think I remember Sugar Kitty. I don't know what you paid for yours, but I think I remember these running like $70 or something like that. So anyway, it's very light on the color. It's 4 years, you know. So, but let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Woo! That's got a decent amount of flavor for 4 years. 114 proof. Greg and I always had a theory, and this theory still holds for me as well, that we used to talk about quite a bit. I still bring it up in videos. Excuse me. That I always think that bourbon needs one of two things. What you paid for yours right after I said I won a... Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sure. I won a bottle of the Senator. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Thank you for calling me out on that, Sugar Kitty. It's amazing how quickly I can completely forget what I've just read. And honestly, it happens in live streams all the time. Anyway, I was saying, I think, let me know your opinion on this. I think bourbon kind of needs one of two things, age or proof. Now, you can't just, have no proof and high age or vice versa. But if you're going to skimp on one, having the other one definitely helps. Like if you've got a lower proof whiskey, having a higher age statement on it is obviously going to add some more flavors that are going to fight against being proofed down because it's going to be a more highly flavored whiskey before it's proofed down. And then, on the flip side, if you've got a low-aged bourbon where it hasn't had time to really impart as much of the flavors into the whiskey, having it at a higher proof and not tamping that down with water, I think is how. So what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with me on that bourbon needs like one or the other? Like you can't have like a 3-year 80 proof banger. It's just, it doesn't work. Unless you want to do like 4-year 80 proofers like for a mixer. Buffalo bourbon enthusiasts, what's happening? Brian and Deb. Oh my goodness. You know what, folks? We are in for a treat. We're in for a treat. I threw a link out, and lo and behold, he shows up. Ladies and gentlemen, half of Baker Drinks. It's Troy in the house. What's happening, brother?
You oversold that intro.
I feel like I undersold it. Before we get into this, are you getting any echo? I didn't test this for a guest, but I think I'm... I feel like I undersold it. That was me playing the thing here.
Okay.
Okay, so no echo on your end?
No, it sounds fine.
All right, good deal. So what's going on, man?
Oh, not much. I had the day off. I've been painting the house.
Nice.
Sucks in the hot summer sun, but, has to be done.
Oh, you're painting the exterior of the house?
Yes.
Oh, God, that's even worse. I've done that before. I painted an entire house once, like a split entry, decent size house. You get the scaffolding out. You guys are in a Rambler, right?
Yeah. It's
if
all
I remember
one
from your
level.
videos, yeah, okay. So that at least you don't have to do the, 30 feet up to get the peaks. And
Yeah. No, it's more like 15 feet up to get the peaks and the gables. But I put all new siding on it myself this summer, so that all sucked.
So what do you...
Going around, caulking it all and then painting it. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Oh, you just put like wood siding on it?
I did like hardy plank.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite the project to take on. Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast. Brian says, hey, Troy, get the laugh track for his jokes. I don't think I have a laugh track, so. But that doesn't mean any potential jokes will go unappreciated. So I got a question for you. I was totally bummed out, by the way. I had the Schmarona virus last time you guys were on the Whiskey 6, so I freaking missed that. So I was bummed about that, but I did watch it. And I was going to ask you guys that night, but obviously wasn't on there. A couple months ago, which you don't really do as much recorded content anymore. You lean in a lot into like live streams and shorts and stuff like that. But
Stuff
you did
that actually gets views.
Yeah. You did a video about the early times bottled and bond black cap versus blue cap.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. It's
actually old blue cap, new blue cap, and black cap.
Right. Okay, so the whole blue cap thing is something that drives me crazy because so early times bottled and bond is legitimately one of my all-time favorite bourbons, the black cap, the original. And why they ever sold that brand off and let Sazerac just beat it into the ground is beyond me. But originally it sounds like the early blue caps people hated. And then there was a run of blue caps that people were like, okay, it's, not a whole lot different than the original. And then I think there's blue caps now that are garbage. And is that, if I watched your whole video and I'm trying to remember what your results were. I think you picked the black cap as the winner.
I did. So I feel like the original blue cap, black cap, I feel like that was pretty, like, exaggerated people's reaction to it. I thought it was pretty similar. I actually liked the nose on the black cap better than the nose on the old blue cap, and the flavor was a wash. So I gave the edge to the black cap. The new blue caps, like they went away for a while out here in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know about the rest of the country, but there was probably a good 6-8 month period where you could not find early times bottled in bond. Then they started showing up again. And I feel like it's a completely different product. The distillate is so different from those old blue caps, which was, of course, Brown-Forman distillate.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all, I believe it's all Barton. I feel like
Okay.
they had to have made the switch, right? It's been 4 or 5 years.
Well, so there's so much about this, and I've been dying to talk to somebody about this subject. There's been so much like speculation of like, okay, well, they announced it 4 years ago that they were going to be selling this brand off to Sazerac, and Sazerac was going to start doing their own thing. So then everybody's contention was they announced it 4 years ago, so the stuff coming out right now is the Sazerac distillate, but the stuff that came out 2 years ago must have been the Brown-Forman distillate that they were just blending, and that's why it tasted a little different. But they could have started distilling and aging it before they took it over. They could have started distilling and aging it the day they said, hey, we're going to buy this brand from you.
Yeah, I feel like they would have to wait for
I'm sorry,
complete.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Before that, they could have started distilling and aging something bottled in bond before that, done the purchase, and then 2 years after the purchase, still came out with the 4-year whiskey because they already had it aging for 2 years before they did the deal. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think what they bought along with the name was, that specific mash bill, the specific yeast, all that kind of stuff, right? So they had to wait until they took ownership of that, I would assume. I could be wrong, but I feel initially they were putting out the same product. It was just different people were blending it, right? Then eventually I feel like they started blending in some of their own distillate, and now I think if it's not completely Barton, it's got to be a majority Barton because it completely tastes different than what it used to. And
Yeah.
I've revisited that multiple times since that video, and the smell's different, the taste is different. It's not bad. It's still drinkable. It's still a bargain at $22 for a liter. It's just not, it don't taste like Brown-Forman anymore.
Yeah, so what I ran into is the first video, I think it was the first video I did where it was a black cap, because we don't get this in Minnesota. So like sometimes my sister will go down to Indiana because my niece goes to college down there. And so, I always tell her, hey, if you see these, pick me up a couple bottles. And so I did a black cap versus blue cap a while ago. And I said I picked the blue cap, or I mean the black cap, that I like that better, that there was definitely a difference. I remember you had commented on the video saying, hey, you should try this blind because I don't think the difference is quite as much. And so I did that actually I can't remember if it was in a live stream. I think it was, where I did blue cap, black cap, and Old Forester 100, because Old Forester 100 is very, very similar to the old school black cap bottles. And I don't think it gets enough credit as for like how close it is to that. Very, very similar. And I was able to pick the blue cap out immediately as like the outlier.
Yeah.
And again, that one, same opinion as you, wasn't bad. I still said, it doesn't scratch the itch of a, early times bottled in bond, but at $22, it's still a buy for me. It's still a good bargain bourbon. Mm-hmm. And then I killed that bottle, and then I opened another one, and both of these bottles were purchased at the exact same time, off the shelf together. And the blue cap versus blue cap were night and day. Like, completely different bourbons. And the one that I still drank the bottle down, but I didn't like it at all. I would never buy it again. The only reason I would buy one again is to see like what you're going to get, because it seems like now blue cap has gone through like 3 different iterations. Like this bourbon can't figure out what it is. But the one bottle I had, and they both had the same DSPs on them. If you look at the old school, the black cap, they've got a different DSP. They have the Brown-Forman DSP.
Yeah.
And the new ones still have the early times DSP, but then they have, like you said, I think Barton or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just terrible. And I still have just a little bit of it left. I should have saved more of it and sent it out in samples. But it was musty. It was like a wet basement, like pot stilly, and I don't know. It was just weird.
Canadian Chris brings up a very good point. I had said that I thought they were blending stuff together, and they can't be if it's bottled in bond. So.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I guess maybe they had different tasting metrics than what the Brown-Forman people did while blending, because that could account for, the initial change in flavor, and then maybe we all just got used to it, and now maybe it's onto Barton, which would be 4 to 5 years old at this point, so it meets that bottled in bond requirement.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I suppose the blending would be in the blending in the barrels. How much you take from the top shelf versus bottom
barrels,
shelf.
So, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
but
the way I understand it is, say Brown-Forman owned it, they pull a bunch of barrels down to make a batch of early times bottled in bond, all same distillate, same distilling season, all from a bonded warehouse, all the requirements, right? Mm-hmm. And then they blend, a bunch of these barrels together, and they have some tasting metrics where, say, they've got to hit, 10 to 12 different, it's got to taste a certain way across this spectrum, and their tasting panel is making sure that they all do that. Well, when Sazerac bought them, it's a different panel, so their tasting metrics are different, right? So they just blend it different. Same distillate. It was always the leftover stock. They bought all the stock along with the name and all that stuff.
Yeah. Sugar
so
Kitty says bottled and bond can't blend years either.
Yeah, same year.
Yeah. So maybe it's just a matter of pulling the barrels when they feel they're ready versus when Brown-Forman thought they were ready. Pulling more from the top shelf, the higher tier barrels exposed to more heat versus pulling more from the,
Well, they thought they had a slam dunk when they bought it, right? There was a huge cult following for early times. Let's just put together, 500 of these 4-year-old barrels and put it out as early times. And then they caught a lot of hell over it, so they're like, oh, we got to blend this a little better, which could account for it, the the second run of those tasting better, and now they've just switched distillate altogether.
Yeah,
It's
it could be.
It's very woody. Have you bought a new one?
The one that I have was from, I don't know, like a year ago or whatever. And that was the one that was, again, they were both purchased at the same store at the same time. One of them, they were two completely different bottles. So I don't know if one of them had been sitting there for a while and one of them was newer, but it was just, oh God, it was, and I drank the whole liter, and every time I had a pour of it, it was just disappointing. But I would kind of use that as like a pour if I was, having something to eat with it, Friday night and you're snacking or whatever, where it's going to throw the flavor profile off, so you don't really care what, you just drink something cheap or whatever. So I would use it for that purpose. But yeah, it's just probably the neck pour Canadian Chris.
Well, I feel like
yeah,
you turned that
garbage.
upside down, so you got the ass pour.
That's right, exactly. I mean, we've been through this experiment. I mean, I don't know how much more I can try to prove to you sheep that the neck pour doesn't exist. But yeah, Sugar Kitty knows me way too well. It was the neck pour outside.
Yeah, I was going to say
I did a whole
next, drink it
video on
outside.
Yeah. Do you have any experience? Like, do you experience that, Troy, that it tastes different when you're outside?
I don't drink enough whiskey outside, I don't think. If I'm outside, I'm usually having a cocktail or a beer.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, typically a beer. Or I'm having, like, if I'm going to be drinking outside, then I'll grab, like, something budget that's decent.
Yeah.
So you and Laura, I think in one of your videos not that long ago, had kind of said, I think it was one of your bottle haul videos, that you've kind of like changed up sort of like kind of your approach to buying whiskey, as far as like there's certain bottles you just don't really bother to keep on the shelf now, or.
Yeah, I mean, automatically, if it's got $100 price tag on it, I just walk by it. Unless it's like a Wild Turkey LE, then I stop and think about it for a minute and typically walk by. Or a Jack Daniel's LE. But yeah, I got so many bottles of whiskey on the shelf that I don't drink.
Yeah.
And the prices have just gone up so much, so I don't buy anything over $100. I don't typically, I mean, in the past 3 months, I've probably bought 6 or 7 bottles.
Yeah, I haven't been buying as many either, and some of that is just because I'm kind of allocating funds to different stuff right now. Because I do mind the bourbon budget, But what? So I've been like reviewing samples and stuff like that, and I buy a bottle every so often and get a review out of it. But did you guys mention in a video, or am I conflating this with kind of Brian's new approach? Like, do you still bother to keep like a budget friendly? I know you're big into the Rebel Small Batch Reserve, but like, do you keep something like I love to have an Old Forester 100 on hand, because again, it's just like early times bottled in bond, and I think it's a great bourbon at $25, and I will sip that neat all day long.
Yeah, I've got one of those on hand, but I mean, I don't know that I'll replace it when it's empty. Typically, the bottles that I replace often are Cooper's Craft 100.
Another one. Yeah,
soon as
another
that
one
one's
in
empty,
that
I'm
same.
refilling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have Cooper's Craft here, but I was actually going to say that that's the trifecta of good Brown Forman products for budget prices: is Early Times bottled in bond, Cooper's Craft 100, and the Old Forester 100.
Yeah, we just kind of at some point.
Cheers,
noticed
Hatfield.
We're not drinking our own whiskey very much anymore. Like on live streams, we're drinking samples usually. I'm drinking a sample right now. It's the Pursuit Double Oak Rye from West Virginia Bourbon Guy.
Okay.
I'm drinking because if I don't drink these samples or make an effort to drink all these samples, I'm never going to get through them all. And in the process of doing that, we kind of stopped drinking our own stuff. Like we got the Poor Guesses series that we do on Patreon.
Yep.
Like every live stream, I'm typically drinking 4 or 5 samples during the live. If the live's not dedicated to a specific distillery, like this Saturday, we're doing Evernorth. I've got 8 samples of Evernorth over there I'm going to taste through. Last week I did Found North. At some point we're going to do a Barrel King because I got a pile of Barrel King samples. I love people sharing their whiskey with us. We share our whiskey with a lot of people too.
Yeah.
And I feel bad if I wait too long to drink it. So I find myself drinking their sample to give them feedback on it. So I'm not drinking my own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing too. I said at the beginning of this that I've got samples that are piling up, and I've been making it a point. Like most typical nights, I'll have like a pour, like maybe a ounce and a half, 2 ounce pour. If I'm gonna have something to drink that night, and so I've been making it a point to just specifically start killing down some of these samples, because what I'll end up doing is I get these samples and then I'll get a review out of it, and then I keep the sample around forever because I might need that someday for a flight or for a blind or for,
Gotcha.
And typically if it's a sample, it's probably something I can't get my hands on. And so I end up just having this massive collection of half full sample bottles. And without fail, by the way, as soon as I drink it, like I'll get a hold of some bottle the next week. It's like, oh, this would have been a perfect head-to-head blind. And it's one of those things that,
Yeah.
do you know how every man, I'm sure you have this. Well, I know you got like a woodworking shop that you have, but those random pieces of wood, scrap wood that you just keep around forever because you might need them. And the second you finally get rid of one, you need it like a week later.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. But I've been making it a point to try to drink through some of these samples because they were just piling up on my bar top, which again is a good problem to have. But
yes,
hold on a second.
Absolutely love getting samples.
Yeah, me too. That's a great way to it helps out the channel a ton. Because for every sample, I know you guys don't really review samples, but you do them in your pour gases and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's content that we can get out without having to go spend the money on a full bottle, because sometimes it gets hard to just keep the new bottles coming all the time. And then maybe you didn't find anything interesting last week and now you got a video to make and it's like, okay, so I come up with some sort of a random flight. If I come up with a flight, I kind of want it to make sense. And then so it's like you're struggling to put something together to get a little content out of it. And so the people that send the samples in, that's just such a huge help. Hatfield, I'm definitely interested. Send me an email. So speaking of samples, this one's from Dr. Robert. This is Barrel Batch 35. 6 year, 117 proof. 78 corn, 18 rye, whatever the rest is in malted barley. It's a little smeared. Barrel is not a brand that I've gotten a ton into just because they're always high priced, but I'm sure they're good. Dennis Weedman in the house. What's happening, Dennis?
Yeah, Barrel's one of those that we kind of don't buy anymore. And we're just kind of priced out of them. We like their stuff. We had Barrel Batch 35. We liked it a lot. We didn't get 36 or 37 that came out this year, just because they're asking too much money for them.
Yeah, they've always been. I mean, everything they do is north of $100, and it's just like, all right, I need to get every single one of these. Let's see. If you ever have a problem with being overburdened with samples or bottles, there's a whiskey disposal site in the state of New Jersey. Address available on request, or you might have it. Sugar Kitty, I will keep you in mind. So let me ask you a question. This is another thing I wanted to ask you. I've been meaning to ask Myron about this too, because you guys are in the group. What is it? Pour
guesses.
No, to your group that you do barrel picks.
Pour decisions. Yes.
Pour decisions. That's right. So how do you guys go about doing those picks? Like, what's the because it's you, Myron, Whiskey Wisdom is on the barrel in that now.
Yep. So
okay.
It's not a closed group; it's an open group, and we tell people all the time if you got a pick that you're interested in and you've got something lined up with the distillery, you can bring it to the group and we would all go in on a pick with you, sort of thing, and that's kind of how different people have got involved with it.
So do you guys all like? test it out and do samples, or does like a couple people do it, or?
So we've done it both ways. Like Echoes in Eternity, Sean, and Whiskey Wisdom Matt. They met up at Short Barrel and did a tasting there and fell in love with the barrel that was available. And they're like, we would like to have some samples of this barrel and the one beside it to send to our group. And we've done it that way, where they kind of already committed to a barrel, and then if the rest of us wanted in on it too, we could be.
Okay.
And then we've done it where a distillery will send samples to all of us, and then we do a virtual tasting where we get on like a private, like a StreamYard or something.
StreamYard, or yeah. Okay.
And we all taste through them and do a pick that way.
So we're doing. I'm having my first experience with this because we're doing the Whiskey 6 pick from Corbin Cash, which is going to be a monster pick. So we're doing like where it's like we're not purchasing the barrel, like we're not all throwing in money. We're going through a distributor. Is that kind of how that usually works?
Yeah. So we've done it a couple different ways. The first time we did it is. We picked it from the distiller when we went to Westward, and they said, we will basically do all the bottling, all the distribution and everything, and whatever doesn't sell after 90 days, you guys give us the difference. And we sold out before that happened.
Nice.
And then now we go through Southern. So Texas, I believe. So they actually purchase the barrel, have it all shipped to them, and then they do all the distribution and take a cut. So they set the price on something like that. We don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I see all these groups doing it now. Like I said, part of one with Corbin Cash. It's a little different with the relationship with the distillery because Bobby's. Got a really good relationship with David over at Corbin Cash. And so we had him on the Whiskey 6 to talk about it. We did some tastings through some stuff. So I don't know when that's going to come out, probably in the fall or towards the end of the year or something like that. But it's Corbin Cash's first ever Boo Rye.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's going to be a monster. We did tastings of it, but I'm always interested in hearing like how people go about doing that because I see so many different channels like, hey, I've got a barrel pick out. And it's like, well, how are you going about doing this? Because it's just not something I've ever looked into doing, on my own. And so I've always wondered like, okay, well, how do you do this? Do you have to drop $15,000 to buy a barrel?
I mean, you could do it that way. That's not how most people, like most people will go through like shared pour, seal box or something like that. And shared pour will put the money up and they will basically have the barrel for a certain amount of time, and then if it doesn't sell in that time, then you would pay for the rest of the bottles and they'd ship them to you basically, and
then you just have to unload them somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you've got a pretty solid following, or with us we're involved with other channels, so there's a pretty large audience.
Well, and I think that's becoming a pretty popular thing. We were talking about store picks on a Whiskey 6 episode not that long ago. I think it was the last one, where we were kind of talking about like just the whole thing around store picks. Like, do you find that you really need to go hunting for store picks, or like are they all do you find that some stores have terrible picks so you just don't buy from them, and how that whole process works? And I've always kind of been of the mindset that's like, well, it's a single barrel. It's just a single barrel. So whatever. It's, what's the difference from one single barrel to the next? But what I learned on that is that, so Brian and Marianne were telling us that, so they do like picks with their local liquor store that they have a relationship with. So the store will just let them pick the barrels and they'll, put Bourbon School, sticker on it or whatever. And then Brian and Deb up at Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiasts also kind of do something similar. And from what I understand, like they'll have like, I think they were saying like Brian and Deb will pick one and whatever's left over that they didn't like. Well, all of a sudden here comes the rep down to this other store, 20 miles south of them where Brian and Marianne live. And then they go to do the pick and they don't really like any of them. And then it's like, come to find out, like, these are the samples that didn't get picked from one pick. They're just sending them to the next store and to the next store until finally they all get picked. Until they just end up in the hands of somebody who doesn't know anything about bourbon. They go, I don't care. Just give me barrel number 3 or whatever. So it's like when you get a set of 3 samples or whatever from the distillery and 2 of them are dog shit, those 2 are going to end up somewhere. Like they're going to find a way to get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, Pour Decisions has turned down samples from Nashville Barrel. They sent us samples that were all garbage, so we didn't pick anything. Blue Note also. The pick that we have out right now is a Cedar Ridge. We didn't like any of the individual samples, but one of the guys on the pick happened to blend 2 of them together, and we all absolutely loved it. So they did a 2-barrel blend for us.
Nice. So did you have double the yield on that then, since it was 2 barrels blended into?
Nope. We committed to a half barrel of each, so it came out to 1 barrel.
Okay, nice. That's the other thing I was wondering about this, Boo Rye thing. It's like, so are we getting like double the amount of bottles out of this, or?
Yeah.
Let's see. Hatfield
they're
Barbecue.
short barrels.
Yeah, I think they actually might be smaller barrels. Hatfield Barbecue says, great example is a total wine pick. None of theirs seem like anything special. Taylor, I will tell you that they have a monster Woodford Double Oak pick right now. I don't know which locations they have it at, but if you see a Woodford Double Oak total wine pick, I don't think I still have the bottle, but it was really, really good. It crushed the double oak in a blind.
I've had some good Total Wine picks. I don't know that I've ever had a really bad one, but with Total Wine, they're dealing in such volume and to so many people. I feel like all of their picks are very safe. They're only going to pick something
probably
if they know they can sell it.
Yeah, and Taylor, by the way, it's like the pick is like $56 or something for a double oak pick, which is good. The other thing is like Total Wine. It's like, they probably have people who know about bourbon that are doing their picks for them. It's not just a rando in the store because, Troy, I don't know if you know this, but when you go to Total Wine, Bob's favorite whiskey, on the little tag is always going to be Lazy River. And then Janice, she loves Wolcott. And Steven, he's a big Chestnut Farms guy.
Which is basically Blanton's, right? It's got a horse on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's Blanton's, and it's, I don't know, Sazerac has something to do with it or something like that.
It's all Sazerac, yep.
Yeah. I mean, it is funny when you go there, like whoever is running the store, whoever works at the store, it's like their picks are always the Spirits Direct picks. Mm-hmm. Which sucks because there actually are some good Spirits Direct brands, but you have to dig through like such a pile of just shitty ones to get to them.
Well, I think it's all Barton too. I think they've got like 5 or 6 different Spirits Direct brands that are all Barton.
Yep. Yeah, I was bitching about that in a topic I did about like no transparency on the bottles, where it's like, okay, I go to Total Wine, I've got 5 bottles of Barton here, and they're 5 vastly different prices. Why is that? You got to tell me why this Barton's, because they say, at least, to their credit on a lot of their products, it'll say from Barton 1792. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't give me an age statement or tell me, some information about it, why is this one 80 and this one's 20? And they're both 100 proof, Let's see. Brian says, we scrapped the video where Wolcott versus Calumet 16. Lou and Ralph both like Wolcott better, and so did Deb and I. Well, why would you scrap that? Look at these 2 whiskey sniffers hanging AZ in the house. Chestnut Hill is Barton, essentially Kirkland. Chestnut Farms?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny, but like I've had a couple of samples. Like I actually like the McFarland's Reserve stuff. The McFarland's Reserve 13 year is really good. And I've got that 16 year. I suspect it might be, it's a little dickily, but I can't tell if that's just the finish on it or whatever. But I really like that one for something different. So I do like that brand. The problem with it is, Total Wine charges $100 for the 13 year or 110 or whatever. I don't know if this is the case everywhere, but in Minnesota, other liquor stores can get those Spirits Direct brands. And so my favorite liquor store got a hold of a bunch of McFarland's Reserve 13 and they sell it for like $50-$60. And she said that that's with her standard markup. That's not like to undercut. Like she applies her standard markup and it comes out to like $50.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, Total Wine is really pulling the wool over with that. I think that's why they can sell, Old Forester 100 for $22 or whatever. And, but I think also they, do the Total Wines out in your area get a little crazy with their store picks? For the most part, like that Double Oak pick, I was shocked at how cheap it was because most of their picks are like $15 over anybody else's pick. Like Old Forester single barrel strength is 120, 115 when it should be 100.
Yeah, I mean they always upcharge their picks over the shelfer. I don't know. I typically don't buy Total Wine unless it's something that I just absolutely have to have, and they're the only place that has it. Because it's not in Oregon; it's only in Washington. And
you got to pay that 20%.
You got to pay that tax, exactly. So
what's funny is
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've often thought about, because I mentioned one night we're chatting on a live stream about how you guys have it so good where you live in a state with no income tax, but you're right on the border of a state with no sales tax.
Yep.
And so, I mean, you kind of got the best of both worlds there, because if you don't have an income tax, you're going to pay for it somehow. And if you don't have a sales tax, you're going to pay. We have income tax and sales tax in Minnesota. Gotcha. So Minnesota's an egregious place to live. I mean, it's a great place to live, but it's our systems are a little wacky over here. But I've actually thought of like modeling my retirement after that. Like I've literally thought about like when we retire, we should get into a place where there's no income tax, but right on the border of a place with no sales tax. And I got that idea from you telling me about Washington and Oregon. So the problem is I don't think I can ever move away from grandkids. So
there you go. Yeah.
I've just got the one now and one on the way, but I have a feeling it's only going to be, even worse when there's a whole bunch more of them. It's like, okay, I can't move. I'm stuck in Minnesota for the rest of my life. See, Ralph Gibson in the chat. What's happening, Ralph? Let's see. I've had that same bottle of Wolcott for like 3 years. I don't go through bottles. The Wolcott was actually better in a blind than Calumet. I was shocked. All right. Well, Brian, there you go. Not mad about AZ prices. Can't complain. So that's two people now in the chat. So it's Brian and... for God's sake, hold on. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by my cursor's not working here. Brian and Ralph both picked Wolcott over Calumet. And Brian said it was a Calumet 16, so maybe we need to revisit Wolcott. I don't know.
Yeah. Brian's saying that he saw someone get a bottle in Washington, and it was, with the taxes, it was cheaper than Western New York. That surprises me because, we're not... there's no control on pricing here. I see stuff marked up like 150, 200%, and then you pay 20% tax on, or 21% tax on top of that. Typically we are the last place you want to hunt whiskey. But if you're looking for something, I can go to 5 stores within 20 minutes of our house, and they probably have everything that you could dream of. You just can't afford it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I've seen people put up like bourbon hunting videos where it's like, dude, I found a store, it's got Pappy Van Winkle. It's like, well, who gives a shit if they're selling it for $3,000? That's why they have it there, is because they just haven't found somebody who's enough of a sucker to buy it.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question before we get out of here pretty soon. But do you guys? There's been a lot of talk, on amongst kind of the whiskey tubes about like availability of like some previously allocated stuff showing up. Are you guys seeing that? Because I know you guys have Buffalo Trace and Eagle Rare pretty regularly available out there. Whereas in Minnesota, like you don't even see Buffalo Trace. That's just as rare as Blanton's damn near at this point. But it's getting better. It's starting to show up. Like I found a E.H. Taylor small batch for $70, which is a little marked up, but not egregious. And that was at a municipal store that usually is 10, 15, 20% over MSRP anyway. So are you starting to see stuff show up?
I mean, I could probably, if I was collecting, I could get a Blanton's pretty much any day of the week that I want. And they're not.
But like for MSRP?
But yeah. Like in Oregon, most stores will get Blanton's. They get like 2 drops a week from the central distributor, and they typically have Blanton's and Eagle Rare in that every time. Buffalo Trace sits on the shelf. H. Taylor's, it's a lot more frequent, but it's still, you got to hunt pretty hard to find one. I don't know. In Washington, I see cases of Eagle Rare just sitting on the floor, stacked 6 high all the time.
See, that's what I don't get. Why are they just distributing to, I don't get especially when it's allocated stuff like, Ohio and Texas get all the Weller. That's what everybody says. And like they've got Eagle Rare sitting on shelves collecting dust in one part of the country, and then people paying $100 for it in another part of the country. It's like, I get that some brands don't distribute to certain states, but they do distribute to Minnesota. So why is it they only distribute a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. Pre-COVID, all of the distributors started ramping up production, and then through COVID, they like massively expanded.
Yeah,
I understand there's some aging involved in making good whiskey, but at least some of the lower tier Buffalo Trace products should be showing up in mass by now, right? You're talking 5-6 years.
Yeah, because somebody just commented. Who was that? Was that OG or Hangin that just said? Hangin, Buffalo Trace double production. So I think from what I saw on, I can't remember whose video it was. Maybe it was Jason C. or It's Bourbon Night. They had mentioned they were doing, and it wasn't It's Bourbon Night because I just watched theirs, but somebody did a Eagle Rare 12-year. And they had said that I don't know if they got this from Buffalo Trace in a press release or whatever, but the idea was that their expansion allowed them to make Eagle Rare 12-year. Like that's one of the fruits of their expansion. And I don't know what that necessarily means. Like maybe they could take barrels of Mash Bill 1 that they would have already had, they would have had to pull for production to make regular Buffalo Trace. But since they started aging this other stuff 4 or 5 years ago, they're using that for the Buffalo Trace, and we're able to leave that stuff alone for the last 5 years. I don't know. I don't know how the overlap works, but if their idea of, hey, we're expanding, and so there's going to be more products, is we're going to just create more products that are not available. Because I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not seeing any Eagle Rare 12 showing up. So, yeah, hopefully, like you said, at some point, like the baseline stuff, the E.H. Taylor small batch, the Buffalo Trace, hopefully Antique 107, because, what is that age? Like 6 years or something like that?
Yeah, I think with the Eagle Rare, they basically just pulled a Heaven Hill on us. You had the 6-year bottled in bond was super affordable. Everybody loved it. And then they took it off the shelf for, more than a year, and then they show up with the 7-year bottled in bond at twice the price.
Yeah.
I feel like the Eagle Rare 10-year availability went to pretty hard to find. You know, you could still find it, but it was pretty hard to find. It's in Oregon, especially. It's on allocation in Oregon.
Oh, it's 100% allocated here. It's you see one maybe once a year, twice a year.
I'm sure they held back a lot of that stock and just aged it a couple more years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The new production, or the doubled production, it's not 12 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. But they should be able to do some of that, some of the baseline stuff, like you were saying. So this comment right here, OG Brick 420. I agree. They should make more Stag Junior and Antique 107. Yeah, because I mean, Stag Junior is not aged a ridiculous amount of time, and if they had, those are products that people are going to buy, I think, aside from allocation. Even when the hype goes away and they're available everywhere, that's going to be a shelfer product for a lot of people. Because Stag Junior is just really good. When Antique 107 is really good. You know, I think people would buy those and keep those on the shelf. Because some people seem to be of the opinion that, well, if they flood the market, or not flood the market, but if they just make their products available like every other distillery, then nobody's going to buy them because it's not special anymore. And it's like, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. So, Brian, I see your comment on the Maker's Keepers release was 76. I know Costco specifically had it for about that price out the door. And I think they're able to do that because of their volume. Most other places, it's 76 to 80 on the shelf and then 20% tax. So you're looking at about 100 out the door.
Is that the one I have two? I've got a backup of one of them. Yeah, the Keepers or the Heart Release, the first one.
Keepers was the second. The Heart Release was the first.
Okay, I think I have a backup of the Heart Release because I bought one at a liquor store for $70, and then they had it at Costco for $56.
Yeah, Costco always seems to be, about 20% less than, a random store.
One of the only good rules about Minnesota's ridiculous liquor laws is that Costco and Sam's Club can't be exclusive. They can't. The liquor can't be part of the club, so they have separate liquor stores that you can shop at without a membership.
Yeah, so it's the same here. They don't have a separate store, but you can shop the liquor without a membership. So, like, if you're going through the door and they're like, "Where's your card?" You just say, "I'm going to the liquor aisle," and they let you go through.
Oh, see, in Minnesota, you can't even have the liquor in the same building.
Yeah,
basically,
here it's in. They dedicate like a row to like liquor, and then like a row to canned stuff like beers and seltzers.
Yeah,
and
that's what it was like. I went.
Wine.
Yeah, I went to. I was in Michigan for a day, like last October. I had to fly over to Michigan for one night, and I was like, "Well, I'm here. I might as well bourbon hunt a little bit." And I went into one of their Sam's Club, and their prices were way more expensive than Minnesota, even at the Sam's Club. But yeah, they had just like a liquor aisle. I think Bobby had said that, like, if you can shop for booze without a membership, but they'll actually walk you to the aisle or something like that. Like, I think they don't need to do that. They'll just get you at the checkout, right? I mean, show your membership at the checkout.
You don't have a membership card at checkout, you can't buy anything unless it's one of those exclusives.
Unless it's booze, yeah. So in Minnesota, they have, like, when you go into the main entrance where the carts are, they'll have a separate entrance to a separate room with essentially just its own independent liquor store. So, all right, we're going to get out of here soon, but Tora Podal is in the house. Ryan Frank is in the house. I'm going to do, I didn't prepare the Patreon sample drawing for tonight's live stream, but I will do that separately for Patreon. So I'll still get a flight put together. There's only 2 people left that haven't won samples yet, so it's a 50-50 at this point. So we've gone through the whole list of Patreon subscribers that have all been winners. So, all right, let's get out of here. Troy, do you have anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
Live stream Saturday, we're going to be drinking some Evernorth spirits, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Nice. Where'd you get the Evernorth?
Just samples from subscribers, a bunch of.
Okay.
I got like 8 of them over here, so.
I was going to ask if you got samples from the Bourbon Jerk from Tom, because he has an extensive collection of Evernorth. You see that in the background of his videos.
Yeah, Got some Dave Vogelsang, some Gandy Rhodes, some C.A. Scotty, Josh Fritz.
Nice.
Yeah, just all kinds of people.
I've got to start printing out labels and putting them on the sample bottles. You know, like Dave puts his little signature on his. And I can usually tell Dr. Roberts, I can tell the person that sent it by the style of how they, what kind of label they use. But I've got to get the Nimbot out, which, by the way, I don't know if I ever told you this, but you had mentioned the Nimbot one night when we were talking in a live stream, and you said it was an absolute game changer. I ordered one that night. Total game changer.
Yes.
Absolute game changer from for doing samples. Canadian Chris, yes, Evernorth is from Michigan. That's the bourbon junkies who run that game. And they source from a bunch of different distilleries, right?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
I think these are all blended stuff. Spirit Walker and Night Stalker, and they got cool names and cool bottles. I don't really know much about them because their stuff is like, I think you have to be like a Patreon or a club member or something to get it. Or maybe you can buy it on shared pour or something.
I don't know. I don't know how that works. I thought they had said in some video that they're going to start doing, selling on shelves, but yeah, who knows. So, all right. Well, it is time for me to get out of here because I do have some content to film after this. As I mentioned before, the Patreon content is about to get a major boost. So if you're interested in bonus content, head over to Patreon and check that out. Troy, thank you so much for hopping on here because
for sure.
I would have ran out of stuff to talk about probably about 5 minutes after you hopped on if you hadn't hopped on here. So I appreciate the help.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, cheers, everybody.